Welcome to episode 22 of the Blind Exorcist podcast. I'm Justin D., your host. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join or subscribe to the podcast and share it out to your family, friends, and on social media. Today, I have something awesome. I always say that because every guest I have on here, they are awesome. But today, I bring somebody at a little bit of a different caliber. Michael. He is in intelligence in the government. He has had quite the military career being in intelligence. He's been in 90 countries. And because of his career, because of his identity, his credentials, obviously, I'm going to seclude his real name and his voice. This is awesome. Michael has a degree from West Point. He has a master's degree from Harvard and another university. I forget which one that is. We'll get to that. Highly intelligent. He is gifted intellectually. He is gifted athletically. And he had demons. Now, I love having Michael join us because it shatters the facade that people who are demon-possessed are severely mentally impaired. They are homeless. They are crazy. They are all schizophrenic. There's no such thing as demons. I hope by now, if you've been listening for a while, and if you haven't, and this is your first episode, demons are real. And Michael is going to share with us yet again another Christian, Spirit-filled, got the Holy Spirit, all that, and had demons. Now, you got to begin to ask yourself, if Justin's bringing on these Christians, they're all Christians, 21 people I've had the pleasure of interviewing, and there's a ton more coming, plus my own testimony. If Justin has brought these people on and they're Christians, and they're saying that they had demons, in fact, one I actually played the Exorcism for you, Phoebe's story. If you've not listened to that, check it out. But there comes a point in time where the argument that Christians cannot have demons is simply disingenuous. So if you want to listen to all of these testimonies and say that these people are crazy, Christians can't have demons, yada, 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 it does not hold weight. It does not. And Michael, what are you going to say to somebody that's in intelligence, in the government, fluent in multiple languages, highly educated, gifted intellectually, athletically, etc., and says that he has demons? What are you going to say? He's crazy? What are you going to say? Something's wrong with him? No. This is legitimately real. The people that I have on this podcast have demons, and they're all Christians. This is why I started this podcast, so you guys could hear intelligent, educated, sophisticated people who are Christians who have demons. It doesn't matter what your local pastor says. Oh, Christians can't have demons, and half their congregation's demonized, suffering, can't even help them. Pastors get sick of people coming back with the same problems all the time to get real frustrated. Like, look, we've already been through this depression. We've already been through the suicidal stuff. You know, you got a problem, I can't help you. That's right, you can't help them. You know why? Because it's demons, and you're in denial. And people who have demons, pastoral counseling can help some. Therapeutic counseling can help some, but you're missing a key ingredient: exorcism. Got to expel the demons, just like Jesus Christ did. The argument that Christians cannot have demons is officially debunked. This message is approved by Justin Daubenmeier. Okay, so debunked, baby, out the door. Michael is an amazing man of God, and he is just an amazing person in general. It's a sincere pleasure to interview him. We're going to talk some about his work in intelligence. Obviously, we're just going to nip on it a little bit. We can't go into great detail. We do not want his cover exposed. So I would encourage you to share this out to anybody that you know that's a Christian that says Christians cannot have demons. Let them hear this, be confronted with truth, and get their thinking challenged. So let's go ahead and get into the interview. You guys are going to really enjoy this. Let's meet Michael. Michael, welcome to the Blind Exorcist.
Thank you for having me. This is great. I know this has been a long time in the making, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. So thank you.
I'm excited to have somebody on the podcast that has some serious credentials. Not that other people have not, they absolutely have. But you are my first military person that I've had the pleasure of interviewing. So welcome. I'm excited. And folks, we're going to step through Michael's life here and really pull back the curtain on his life so that you can see intelligent, educated, sophisticated people can absolutely have demons. So let's go ahead and just jump into this, Michael. Can you tell us a little bit about, let's go back to your childhood. I always like to start way back at the roots of the family because oftentimes this is where demons enter people, is in childhood, through the family structure, through the dysfunction within family units. Demons love to be transferred through dysfunction, codependent bonds, poverty, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, etc., etc. Most people will pick up demons in their childhood. They are also born with ancestral curses resting on their lives. And the third way people pick up demons is the things that we do in life, whether ignorantly or willfully. Go see a psychic, get a tarot card, whatever. Okay, Michael, let's hear about your childhood.
So I was born in New York, and I had three brothers, and we grew up with, I wouldn't say we're poor, but we grew up in a one-bedroom apartment. We didn't have a whole lot, and I was used to getting hand-me-downs from my brothers growing up. I did see things as a child. I saw what I thought were ghosts, and as a child, I did get bites on my back as a young child before the age of 10, scratches and bites and that sort of thing. So, it was very difficult studying, but, I was very active in sports, and I just found a way to get serious with sports. I lettered, I was captain of my track team, captain in wrestling, president of my class and all that, and I had honors in my schooling, and I wanted to get out of my circumstances. And I had a relationship with God and Jesus, and I had no way to pay for college. I was always gifted intellectually. I was always gifted as an athlete and even with leadership skills. And I grew up real close to West Point. I fell in love with West Point as a kid. My dad took me up to the football games, and that's a place I always wanted to go. I always wanted to be an Army officer. I just needed to get out of my circumstances, and I prayed to God. I said, hey, if you can get me out of my circumstances, get me to West Point, give me a new chance, a new start, that I'll do whatever you want me to do. And that's how my journey began.
It's interesting that you've seen ghosts as a child. You've had bite and scratch marks, again, very common symptoms of demons. And for those who don't know, ghosts are demons. There's no such thing as ghosts. As children, that's all we can equate it to. There are adults who believe that there are ghosts and they go ghost hunting, but from an exorcist perspective, they are demons. So here you are, young child, seeing ghosts, experiencing paranormal phenomena, bite marks, scratch marks at a young age, a child. And at the same time, This is interesting, folks. Michael is gifted intellectually and athletically. So here we have a gifted child at a very young age with demons. I just want you to understand that for just a minute. What was it, Michael, that made you want to get out of the house and go to West Point?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you waking up feeling overwhelmed by depression, anxiety, loneliness, anger, or addiction? Despite your efforts with self-help programs, books, spiritual practices, or counseling, do you feel like nothing has brought lasting relief? If this sounds familiar, I want to offer you a different approach. Exorcism is often overlooked, but can be a vital part of finding true healing. It's not like what you see in movies. It's a compassionate process aimed at addressing deep-rooted issues that might be causing your suffering. Demons can contribute to our struggles, and I'm here to help you confront and overcome them through the compassion of Jesus Christ. Visit my website at justind.com and take the first step towards a brighter future. Book an appointment today, and together, let's start your healing journey.
What made me want to get out of the house was I thought my family was chaotic. My mom had borderline personality disorder. There was physical abuse. There was mental abuse. One of the things that my mom did was she hit me across the head with a medicine bottle, which will play a more important point of discussion later on. But things like that, the physical and mental abuse, growing up in an affluent area where I didn't really have much, but I felt like I was gifted, but yet people who weren't gifted or limited intelligence or athletic ability or all that, they had everything in the world. They had cars, they had beautiful houses and all that, and I had nothing. And then I lived in a home that was just chaotic. It was always noisy, loud, somebody getting disciplined, no privacy. And my mom also, she was like a chain smoker, so I didn't really like that part of the environment. And then my dad was always working, so there was I felt like it was just a kind of a dysfunctional upbringing.
I'm very sorry to hear that you had to go through a family structure in that way. And sadly, I say it all the time, many people experience things like this in their childhood, in their life, and demons enter. So back to West Point, you decide to go to West Point. You're praying to God. Obviously, he comes through for you. You're able to go to West Point. What did you major in when you were there attending at West Point? It's a very high-end school. Awesome, dude. What did you major in? What were you into?
So everybody had to pick an engineering discipline. And so I studied systems engineering, but I also studied different foreign languages. So I was fluent in 3 foreign languages, and I was also pretty well-trained system engineer. And actually, when I finished my time in the military, my first job was as a system engineer with a Tier 1 aerospace and defense contractor. The West Point education system is very difficult. Your day starts at 5:30 in the morning, doesn't end till could be 11:30 at night. And the academics are very rigorous, but also you're doing things like boxing, wrestling, drilling. And if you get 6 hours sleep, you're fortunate. But most of the time it's probably like a 5.5 hour time to sleep. But the rest of the time you're very active with sports and academics.
So after West Point, is that when you went into the military?
So pretty much most of the people who graduate West Point, unless they have some sort of medical situation, gets commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. And that's about 99% of the class. And so I was commissioned as a second lieutenant, and I spent the next 6 years in different units in the Army, armor units, cavalry, squadrons. This is around Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then also leading into 9/11 in Afghanistan. So that's the time frame when I served.
And at a certain point in time, you started to get into intelligence within the government. Are you able to share a little bit of information about that or not?
Yeah, so I was a military intelligence officer, and I had intelligence officer assignments. I led the intelligence operations for different types of military units, one of them being like a tank battalion as an example. And I did serve in that capacity in the Army. And then when I started my career with private industry, I continued to do work with the different intelligence communities and also the Department of Defense.
That's awesome. Here you have it, guys. Very intelligent person here had demons. I love it. Not that you had demons, but that this breaks the stereotype. This is awesome. This is amazing. And let's push it forward a little further. You, Michael, have received also a second degree from Harvard. Check that out, folks. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I have 2 advanced degrees. One of them is from Harvard University. At the Harvard Kennedy School, I studied national security, finance, international relations. And then 10 years later, after I graduated from Harvard Kennedy School, I did get an MBA from University of Virginia.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, God. By the way, guys, just to let you know, if you have this level of intelligence, you absolutely had nothing to do with it whatsoever. God created you to have that level of intelligence for His purposes. It always amazes me how prideful people are with a high level of intellect, as though they have the intelligence. They did it. And they have been created by God to have that level of intelligence for His purposes. Now, obviously, as all of us know, we know people who have their nose up in the air and they're better than everybody and they're extremely arrogant. That's not what God intended for their life with their intelligence. Paul, the Apostle Paul, guess what? I dare say in today's times, he would have been gifted, much like Michael. The Apostle Paul was fluent in several of the languages. He had phenomenal communication skills. He had studied and raised in the Jewish customs and laws. Highly intelligent, highly educated, best of his time. And guess what? God chose to use him and his intelligence to further the kingdom, and we can see what that level of intelligence did. Amazing. Thank you, Jesus. So just something to keep in mind. No matter what you're good at, a good way of staying humble is realizing that God gave you the ability to do what you're doing. You didn't do it. Yes, you have to practice and do X, Y, and Z, but ultimately God gave you the intelligence to grasp, understand, and do what you're doing in life. So, Michael, you have all of this education. You have worked in the intelligence area in the government, and there came a certain point in time where you realized something's wrong. Something's not right. All of your intellect, all of your intelligence, all of the education you had, you were able to still say, something's not right. I cannot figure this out. Something is off. And it's not good. It's paranormal. It's demonic. It's supernatural. You had the ability to look beyond your human reasoning, beyond the extreme level of intelligence that you've been gifted with, and many people cannot do that. They have to stay in the natural with their intelligence. I was interviewed by a couple guys, and the one gentleman interviewing me said he just can't do it. He's very analytical. He's intelligent. He could not sit that aside. How were you able to sit your intelligence aside, your human reasoning, and say, I think I have demons?
It first started when I was 18, 19, 20, 21. I really enjoyed drinking, partying, going out with women. And now I know what that is. I know now that it's a Jezebelian spirit, but I didn't know when I was in my late teens, early 20s. And then when I got married, I still continued to drink and party, and it put a strain on my marriage. And my wife started giving me a really hard time about me and just this tendency to want to go out and party and hang out with people all the time. And so it definitely strained my relationship with my wife for a very long time. And when I hit my mid-30s, I started to try to get serious about my problem, and I started dealing with it and working with the Lord to deal with it. And I pretty much stopped drinking, using tobacco products, partying, going out, and just being a man and taking care of my wife and family. And a lot of that is what I call crucifying the flesh. But having said that, I could pretty much shake everything. But the one thing I couldn't shake was anger and bitterness. And I'm much more mature and responsible now, and I know why. But when I was in my mid to late 30s, or even my early 40s, I'd have an angry outburst probably once a week. There were times where I felt like I just felt like it wasn't me, like I couldn't control it, like it was somebody else. My wife would also give me feedback, hey, you're a different person. And I didn't know what it was. And I started to listen to Derek Prince, and not so much his Deliverance sermons, but I started just listening to just his general sermons almost every day, and other people. And he did a sermon about how he got rid of all the idols and stuff in his house, specifically a Chinese dragon. And I always felt I did well at work, but I always felt like I had to work 2 or 3 times harder than other people. I just felt like the angry outbursts and all that, and I just knew something was wrong. And Derek Prince was like, hey, talk to God, ask him what is not, what's going on what's in your house that is not a favor of him, and see what the Lord reveals to you and get rid of it. And as an intelligence officer, I collected up all kinds of masks from every different religion, prayer flags from Tibetan, Buddhist countries, and different Muslim artifacts, Hindu art, you name it. My whole man cave is full of masks and idols from all different countries and religions. And when I asked the Lord to reveal to me what he wasn't happy with, like basically everything in my basement came to my mind. And so I collected it all. And this is thousands and thousands of dollars of collectibles. And I said, Lord, if this is not pleasing to you, I'm going to get rid of it all. I'm going to destroy it all. And I took all my life's collection of stuff from maybe 90 different countries I traveled to, and I threw it in the trash. And that is when things started to change in my life.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. You have my head spinning, man. I can dissect this in so many ways. First of all, let's step back to where it wasn't you. How many of you listening have a rage and an anger overtake you to where it's almost not you? Where your partner, your spouse, your dating partner looks at you and knows that it's not you. Your eyes change, the rage, the hatred in your eyes. Your voice changes. I was speaking with a man just this week, last week actually, he said he was yelling at his wife with such a rage that it wasn't him. It was not his voice. And his wife told him, just like Michael's wife, that's not you. That's not you. And this is one of the reasons why this other gentleman contacted me. He knew it was demons. He didn't know how it got in him. He didn't know where it came from, but he knew it was a demon. If you ever have something overtake you all of a sudden and you struggle to control it, no matter what it is, it could be demons causing your symptoms. For example, all of the sudden depression comes on you, uncontrollable sexual urges, compulsive spending, anger, or a deep desire to isolate, whatever it is. If it comes on you all of the sudden, oftentimes it is demons. This is why there's exorcists, guys, to help Christians or people who want out of the world to get freed up. So Michael has this rage come out. He's watching Derek Prince. I've actually seen that episode where Derek was saying he was given from his grandfather 2 Chinese flags, velvet flags with Chinese dragons on them. Extremely expensive. And the Lord told Derek to get rid of them, so he did. And he threw them out. Now, if you don't know who Derek Prince is, he has passed away, but he was probably one of the first Christian deliverance ministers that was very well known, even before Dr. Larson. They may have come out about the same time, roughly, but Derek Prince had an amazing deliverance ministry, tons of teachings. You can find it on YouTube. And there are some people, when it comes time to throwing things away, can't throw out a necklace. Yeah, seriously. And here is Michael. Wow. Thousands of dollars. Now, I can relate. Now, before my exorcism, I used to collect shot glasses because if you've not heard my testimony, it's episode 1. I used to drink a gallon of Captain Morgan rum a week. It didn't matter if it was rum, vodka, or whatever. And I didn't play around. My shot glasses were doubles. So, and some days I didn't even use a shot glass. I just tilt that bottle right up to my mouth and guzzle it down like the good old demon-possessed addict I was, boy. Yeah, that's right. I had a lot of shot glasses from around the world. Ooh, I was proud of them shot glasses. And I remember, man, I was slated to get my first exorcism with Larson, and God's like, it's time to do some house cleaning, bro. And the first thing I did is I'll never forget this. I went downstairs to my shot glass collection, get out a huge trash bag. And at first I put 3 of them in it real gracefully. But when I got to the 4th and 5th, I started whipping them in as hard as I could. I was furious. They were shattering inside. It was probably a 33, 45-gallon trash bag. Hammering them in. If you could have got this on camera, you'd have seen me with this look of anger on my face, smashing these things for the trauma it caused in my life, for the death that it caused. Everything, man, gone. Now, I can't say it was thousands of dollars, but it was a lot of money gone and everything else. And Michael did the same thing with a lot more stuff and a lot more money. Maybe you, my friend, need to get rid of some things in your house to clean it up. Michael, back to you. You get rid of all of this stuff, but at a certain point in time, I mean, you're starting to get a glimpse that maybe this is demonic. You're starting to watch a little bit about Derek Prince, but when did you really decide that, maybe I should go for an exorcism? Or when did you first hear about Dr. Larson?
Okay. The first thing I want to tell your audience is if you challenge God, you say, hey, God, I'm going to do this for you. He'll meet you. He'll blow you away with what he does in return. And I certainly wasn't doing anything for money, but it's important to talk about financially what happened to me after I got rid of everything. Within 3 days, I get a phone call, and I'm doing business development and sales. And somebody leaves the company, and I basically get handed a layup, which is worth 6-figure income bonus for me. So the Lord, within 1 week or less than 1 week, repaid me for everything that I've gotten rid of to orders of magnitude increase. And I would also say, and I don't want to boast, I just want to provide the audience with facts. Since I've gotten rid of everything, a huge heaviness in my house disappeared. And I may be the number one person in my very large company, tens of thousands of employees in terms of business development and sales since I've gotten rid of everything. The Lord always honors you when you do the right thing. And it was never my intention for any financial gain, but I just want people to know that happened in my life. And it gave me a lot extra money and resources to actually go out 6 months later and spend a full day with Dr. Larson. And then also gave me all the finance and resources to do all 4 of Dr. Larson's courses and flights, hotel, everything was taken care of. But to answer your question about Dr. Larson and how I got involved with that, so I saw some of Derek Prince's Deliverance sermons where people were getting freed, and it intrigued me. I was just very interested in it. I've always been interested, I guess, in supernatural things, but it really intrigued me. But I knew he passed away, and I'm like, hey, who can I learn from? I'm curious, who can I learn from that's alive? And I looked at all the deliverance ministers. I've seen all their videos and everything, and I came to the conclusion pretty quickly that Dr. Larson's ministry was, to me, the most logical, the most sound. It had the most educational resources. I looked at the different courses, and I'm like, and I looked at Larson, and I visited some of the seminars, and I'm like, okay, Dr. Larson's the person I need to learn from. And so I just started going through his material, his first school, and I couldn't stop. I was doing like 4 hours a day, and I kept going through all the material. And I did the level 1, and then when I was finished with that, I'm like, okay, let me try the second course, and I cranked through that in rapid succession. I did all 4 courses in maybe 4 months. I don't know, maybe faster. I've done some of them. I've done most of them twice, and I was like, this is what God's called. I spent my whole life trying to figure out what God wants to do with me, what my destiny is. I think most people know they have a destiny and they never find it. And I'm one of the fortunate few, very late in my life, where I finally figured out what God had planned for me. But I didn't think I had demons. I knew I had problems, but I didn't think I had demons. And as a part of, when you finish the 4th course, at least when I enrolled, there was a 30-minute one-on-one with Dr. Larson when you finish.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just for the audience to give a little context, folks, he's talking about the International School of Exorcism. This is a education offered by Dr. Larson, 30 courses, and it's split up into 3 different levels for you to walk through and be tested on and so forth. So I just wanted to jump in real quick to let them know this is what you're referring to. And then when you took it, there was a 30-minute post-completion session with Dr. Larson. So my apologies. Go ahead.
Yeah. So at the end of it, you get the 30 minutes with Dr. Larson, right? And it says, you talk with him, ask him any questions you want, but you got to fill out the spiritual profile. So I start filling out the spiritual profile, covering all areas of mental health, physical, sexual sins, you name it, everything. I happened to build up a pretty lengthy and long list. And it is true that there was a good 10-year period between now and when I cut all those activities off. But when I talked to Dr. Larson, he's looking at my list and he's just like, he looked like he was looking at it and looking at it and he didn't even know where to start. And I'm like, uh-oh. And he told me, he's like, why don't you come out and see me? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I thought maybe this could happen. And he was like, for the day. And I was like, for the day? You mean like the whole day? He's like, yes, for the day.
Not just for an hour session, but yeah, I think you need to come for the day. Go ahead. I'm sorry, man. That is just hysterical, bro.
It's hilarious. So I start to talk to my wife about this, right? I'm like, yeah, I talked to Dr. Larson. How did it go? I'm like, well, he told me he wanted me to come out there, not for 2 hours, but for the whole day. And my wife was gung-ho because she's had to deal with me the last 20 years. She's like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you better go out there for the day. So she was all about it. She's like, yeah, you got anything? Let's get rid of it. Get out there. Go for the day. So I flew out to Arizona, and I had the whole day with Dr. Larson. You know, he brought a friend who was also a very mature exorcist. You know, I don't know how much more I could say about him. I'll just say that he was also a lifelong intelligence community person, maybe 40 years experience, and then went into private industry. That's probably all I could say about him, but very experienced exorcist. So I had two people, Dr. Larson and his friend, and I spent the day with them out in Arizona.
Yeah, and that is in Scottsdale, Arizona, for anyone curious about that. You mentioned the spiritual profile. These, for those who are unfamiliar with this, I use this in my ministry as well over at thejustind.com. Intake questions, spiritual intake questions, and they assess you. And so when you complete the questions, there are questions about your family dynamics, about marriage. There are questions about demonic manifestations, paranormal phenomena. There are questions about your sexual experiences, your sexual history. There are questions about your mental health condition, and so forth. Quite a few questions. And then Dr. Larson and myself and others are trained to use these questions to look for entry points of demons. This is what I love about Dr. Larson. It is intellectual at first, definitely led by the Holy Spirit. Don't misunderstand me. But he's incorporating intelligence behind this. Just not come up to the altar, scream and pray, oh, I feel like you have the spirit of suicide in you. Come out, suicide, come out. No. I wish it was that easy. But there's intellect behind this. It's systematic. It's beautiful. And of course, Michael, coming from an intelligence community, could see the value in Dr. Larson's teachings, methods, the stability of his ministry. I think that's very important, people. We're not talking about somebody that doesn't have a level of intelligence here. We're talking about somebody that's gifted, saying that he researched all of the ministries. And not that the other ministries aren't good, but he was looking for education. And he found it in Dr. Larson. So the spiritual intake questions, I just wanted to throw that out there for people so they can understand. And so when you get with me or Dr. Larson, it's not a prayer session, very much like counseling. We step through it together. It's a wonderful experience. It's very gentle. It's not head spinning and vomiting and all this carrying on. But Michael, when you were sitting in that chair across from Dr. Larson, can you tell us what he found inside of you?
Sure. So let me let the audience to understand what happened before we got to that point. So it was he spent 3 to 4 hours with me looking at the family tree. So he looked at my mother's side, the father's side, looking at health issues, sin issues, and kind of approached it very logically, very methodically, like a forensic scientist, and to build a case to figure out, what potential legal rights a demon may have or where there are strongholds. And for me, when the demon got interviewed by Dr. Larson, I had always had a sense, because I've been through all the coursework, that I had Jezebel in my family, primarily my mom, because I learned to understand that some of her outbreaks and everything reflected a Jezebelian type of spirit. And that's what Dr. Larson found. So it wasn't your standard case. Like, he uses Hebrews 4:12. He divides soul and spirit, and he separates the soul from the spirit to talk to your soul part and see what in the soul part is there that shouldn't be there. And for me, and maybe it's because I don't want to say every day, but I was heavy in prayer and reading the Bible and listening to sermons for probably like a 10-year period of my life. I didn't have any demons directly connected to my soul, but I had a human soul fragment from my mom that had the demon of Jezebel tied to her, to include some other lesser demons like fornication, anger, a couple others like that. And what we discovered through interrogation, that I had 3 generations of basically incest, and that was giving the demon legal right to operate in my mom, which gave the demon legal right to operate in me. That was primarily the primary source of my anger and bitterness, was around my mom and some of the mental and physical abuse around my mom. And that gave the demons a stronghold to torment me and make me have the angry outbursts. And even though I've asked the Lord a million times that I forgive my mom and what she did, sometimes it takes an outside person to help you look inside. And I did a lot of internal work, but I obviously benefited from having an outside person look inside for me. And eventually it led to the fact where I could get angry every once in a while, but I would say it went from before my deliverance session, where it was once a week, to now where it could be 8 or 10 weeks before I get upset. And the intensity is a lot less lower. It's definitely a lot less frequent, and it's shorter, and I'm in control, and I don't feel like somebody else is doing it. But that's what he found.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man, for sharing that with us. And I will explain this to you guys. Those of you who have listened for a while, you know what a soul part is. We've talked about it quite a bit. But through abuse, trauma, control, manipulation, domination, a tiny fragment of a person's soul can get embedded in your consciousness. You're never going to find this in the Bible. Let me say that again. You're never going to find this in the Bible. But show me in the Bible where it says that we should have Sunday school classes. Show me in the Bible where it says we should have services on Sundays and Wednesdays. You're not going to find it in the Bible. You know why churches do this? Because it works. And it's based on experience. For many of years, churches have stumbled through trying to figure out what works, and they found something that works, and this is why they do it, because it works. It's not in the Bible. Now, you may not appreciate that format that most churches have adopted. I get that, but my point is not that. My point is you're not going to find that in the Bible, just like you're not going to find soul part in the Bible. Now, there may be some references in there somewhere, but this is based on Dr. Larson performing over 50,000 exorcisms in over 100 countries. Something or someone would be speaking through the person to him that wasn't a demon. So in his experience, he began to interrogate, what are you? Are you human or are you spirit? And these entities would say human. I'm his mother, or I'm her ex-lover, or I'm the psychic she visited, etc. So based on his experience, he's developed strategies, just like the church has developed strategies of Sunday school classes, breaking them up into different ages, etc., etc. Instead of everybody meeting in one big congregation, all children, all teenagers, all young adults, and hearing sermons, they figured that didn't work. They found something that did work. Sunday school class, not in the Bible. So here we have Michael with a soul part of his mother in his mind. And when a soul part of a person gets in your mind, they bring demons. Now, just to let you guys know, this is extremely common in witchcraft. They have no problems with this whatsoever because they do it and use it all the time. This is legitimately real. So he's got a soul part of his mother in his mind. The mother comes in with Jezebel, anger, fornication, lust, whatever else was all there with good old mom. So Dr. Larson dealt with that situation, got rid of the soul part from his mother, and got rid of the demons attached with the mother to free him up in his soul. That's his exorcism experience. Not everybody's is that simple. Michael said that he did a lot of cleanup work on his own and much of his sinful habits dropped off, but he could not shake anger and bitterness because it was demons. And some of you listening have done a lot of cleanup work on your own by Bible study, counseling, and simply doing the Christian thing, but you still have something in your life tormenting you that you cannot overcome no matter how hard you try. Oftentimes, that is a demon causing your tormenting struggle. Michael mentioned a key point here that it oftentimes requires someone on the outside to help you on the inside. Let me say that again. It oftentimes takes the help of someone on the outside to help you on the inside. He had done a lot of cleanup on his own, but there were still some mild sort of issues lingering. Larson says you need to come out, and they got that little bit cleaned up. That's awesome. I hope this episode has your head spinning with a million questions. Text me any questions you have. Just tap on, send me a text message at the top of the episode description, and shoot me a text. But more importantly, I hope that it challenges you to understand that doesn't matter if you have a doctorate degree, doesn't matter what university you went to, doesn't matter how successful you are in life. Most people who are successful are broken. How do I know that? Because we're all human. And as human beings, we are broken, sinful people. It's only by the grace of Jesus Christ that any of us can be saved. We are sinful people and very broken. And exorcism is just a healing process. It's part of the healing journey. That's it. It's just a component of it. You still need counseling. You still need to be in a church, etc., etc. But this is just a missing component in many people's lives. So you don't have to live with your junk anymore. This works, folks. We have Michael here explaining it to us. This is awesome. Michael, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come on and share with us. I know that you have an extremely busy schedule. I greatly appreciate your time. And at the end of every episode, I always ask my guest to share some encouraging words with the audience. Many people have been listening from day one. Some of them know they have demons, and they just haven't made that step of humility to say, I need help. Others have. Some people are new listening. This is their first episode. Their head's spinning. exorcism, demons. I could have demons. And there are Christians who come back because they're just dipping their toes in. This is all new to them. They've never really thought a Christian could have demons, but they're hearing this and they're like, wait a minute, maybe? I don't know. Michael, for the audience, can you share some words of encouragement with them about exorcism, about how you humbled yourself with your level of intelligence, with your level of education? You humbled yourself and went for that outside help to help you on the inside. Can you share some encouragement with the audience? Go ahead, man.
Sure, I'd love to. Like you're saying, it's a really humbling process. And you have to come face to face. You have to be an adult and come face to face with your challenges, your problems, and take responsibility. But looking back at me going through my experience, I'm so thankful I did, because there's a couple of key components that you have to go through. First, you have to humble yourself before the Lord. And pride is one of the biggest sins that took down Satan and takes down the rest of us every day. And humbling yourself before the Lord. And then through the deliverance process, of course, you're going to repent of all the things that you've done. You're going to renounce. You're going to stop habitual sin. You're going to own up to it, and you're going to ask the Lord for forgiveness. And that's a very important piece in order to qualify for deliverance. And then, to me, the part about forgiveness, it's so important to forgive people. And if we're not fully forgiving everyone, then you won't qualify for deliverance or exorcism. And so you really have to forgive everybody. And I would say starting with the parents. A lot of people have challenges with a parent. I'm a parent myself. I hope my children forgive me for the mistakes I've made, but it's really important to forgive, and forgive. The Lord has a really high standard when it comes to forgiveness. And so through the humility, repent, renounce, forgive, and turn away from any life of sin at all. But there's a couple of things that I've gotten from deliverance. The first thing, which I found really interesting, is I heard church songs and hymns for about 2 months. So every day that I woke up for the 2 months after I did my exorcism, I heard a different song. Some songs I haven't even heard of. It's been 30 years since I've heard the song. It was really interesting to me. I'd wake up and I'd hear singing, like singing from heaven. And everybody has a different experience. But that's what I heard for about 2 months. And then I felt like a huge burden off my back, like my neck, my shoulders always sore, and this huge weight that lifted off my back. And then my family and my children think I'm different. They're like, oh, you're much nicer now. And it's the truth. I'm more at peace. Like, I'm very slow to anger, just a quiet peace. I sleep really well. Like, I sleep like a baby. So there's all these benefits and gifts that you get from setting yourself free. And it's hard to tell until you've gone through the process. The pre-deliverance me and the post-deliverance it's two different people. I never want to be the person I was before I had my exorcism. Being free is wonderful. Waking up every day and being free. So I would just say it's very hard to tell whether you have them or not, but most of the people that I've come across I have demons. So just going through the process is just wonderful. And I encourage everybody to do it. There's just so many. And then the financial reward, I wasn't even looking for any of that, and just everything. And then for me, finding my personal destiny. How many of us wake up every day and we're having conversations with God and we're like, what do you want to do with my life? I bet you 80% of the audience is like asking the Lord, what purposes do you have for me? What good works do you have prepared for me to do? And I think if you go through a deliverance and exorcism, the Lord will make it very clear what he wants you to do and how to serve the kingdom. And I can go to sleep at night knowing I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
If you're facing torment, fear, or something you can't explain, you're not alone. I've walked with many people through deliverance, and I've seen Jesus bring real freedom. If you're ready to take that first step, go to justind.com and book an appointment with me. I'd be honored to walk with you on your healing journey.